Okay, so thanks everybody for coming. So just to be clear, this is SLO assessment. That means that you, for the class that you're teaching, one of the classes you're teaching, you you do the data gathering for each of the 3 to 5 outcomes for that class. You assign a point score to each student for that outcome for the class. And like I was saying, this is kind of an ambiguous process so far at Gavilan. It's required by the state, but it's unclear exactly how much, how often, which classes. All those little details seem to be yet to be worked out. What has finally been worked out in the last couple of years is the actual tools that we use to do that. So now we have an actual database to put everything into. And so that'll, that's a lot better than it was 18 months ago. So this is an overview of the process. Again, details are hazy, but for some, amount of classes, the idea is that every semester we collect scores or assessments of outcomes. And these are really just more fine-grained grades. A common question is, well, I do grades, why would I have to do this? That's true. These are more fine-grained and they address, individual skills and knowledge within the class's outline of record. So every semester, the data gets collected by you, the faculty, and then the idea is that every year that all that data gathering gets gathered in one place, say for a program or for a department, and it gets compiled into a report. Some statistics are done, and it breaks it down into different subgroups of demographics, and just basically all kinds of interesting math. Pardon me. And that report goes back out to the department and to the teachers, who then use that information to find out where the gaps are in their teaching and in their curriculum, and attempt to improve both their courses and the assessment process. Okay, we can hear you now.
Yes, thank you.
Very good. So I'm recording the session. I was just going through an overview of the process.
All right, thank you.
And so that's the idea of what should happen every year amongst the departments and, say, teachers that teach courses in common. The idea is to be constantly reviewing and improving our own teaching. And then, of course, every 5 years, every course does have to go through curriculum and go through a complete update, or at least a checking for outdatedness. So at a minimum, every 5 years, the content of the SLOs, along with all the other course outline and description, will go through curriculum committee. And that's a law. We can't teach a course if it hasn't been reviewed and updated within the last 5 years. So what I was saying about the process that we've put into place, and don't be intimidated by this. I know I put a lot of things on here, but this is basically the point of this drawing, is to show that all of our outcomes get stored in a database called Curricunet. That's the main repository. Do you have a question, Daniel?
It's not that, I guess it's not important, but I was just curious, how long has have the SLOs been imported into each course shell? How long has it been going on?
Off and on for 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Like I haven't.
Cool.
I haven't.
That's good. You probably notified us about it. I sometimes I just miss the vote on something, so that's good to know. That. Thank you.
No, I've been working on the process, so it's been hit or miss for the last couple semesters. Yeah, so what we have up and running now is the big CurricuNet database. So what I'm going to talk about today is working in Canvas or in iLearn. And so the point of this is so that you know you can do all of this in Canvas and automatically, without you doing anything else, those results are going to transfer back into the main database in CurricuNet. So that's not something you have to worry about. There is a way to do it directly into CurricuNet, and that's also something that I'm not going to talk about today. I don't think it's actually live yet. It will be, but I don't have time to fit it all in. And definitely, if you're using iLearn, then I recommend you use this process through iLearn.
Sorry, Peter, can I ask one more? I'm sorry, one more thing. I'm
Absolutely.
sorry.
Yeah.
As long as we link the SLOs that are already there to the assessments we have, it'll automatically compile the results of that and put it into like the main. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's wonderful.
Yep. Yeah.
That was good. That's really great.
Yeah, that's what we've been working on.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good to know.
Mhm. Any other questions about the kind of the big picture? You may or may not know we have all these different outcomes. Besides student learning outcomes, there's program level outcomes, institutional level. SAOs, I think, apply to student services. And again, I'm only talking about SLOs, so this is only the faculty stuff. So diving deeper into what it actually looks like in iLearn. Each SLO, the way that we're going to score it means you give that student for that outcome a score from 0 to 3 points. So 0 and 1 are not passing, and 2 and 3 are passing. So 2 is acceptable, or passes, and 3 is excellent. Whatever words you want to give it. Go ahead, Daniel.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a standalone 0 to 3 point assessment. It can't be like within the rubric worth 0 to 3 points, like within a larger rubric. That's how I.
It can, yeah. I mean, you can use the rubric also for grading, but since the odds are low that 0 to 3 points is going to fit in with the points you already have going, my advice is, and I'll show you how, don't let the SLO points be a part of your actual grade.
So yeah, it'd probably be
and I'll show you where to turn that off.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, you can if you want to, but I don't expect that you would want to. So, and we did that. The math would get too crazy if we kind of allowed any scale. So that's just kind of 0 to 3 for all the
But it's not like midterm and then the only scoring for it is this 0 to 3. You can actually give them a grade separately with a rubric, and then you just separately you have and you get a 2 out of 3 on this SLO for it. Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so like Daniel was kind of getting at is the whole way that the assessment gets done is you attach an outcome to an assignment. So you pick an assignment that adequately represents their mastery of that outcome, and you kind of use, when you're grading that assignment, you also assign a score for the outcome. Does that make sense? We'll go more into it right now. So the way we do this in iLearn is with the rubrics tool. And if you haven't used it before, this is a great opportunity to do that. It's a great tool. I think it's helpful for teaching in general. So this is a good excuse to get involved in it. You, like Daniel was alluding to, you may only use the outcome, with the rubric, or you may put your own criteria on here and use your own points to grade the student. It's up to you. Who here
I have
has
a
used
question.
rubrics? Oh, go ahead.
So sorry. Okay. So I do have rubrics.
Mhm.
But I kind of, I guess, like you just said, I kind of create my own you know what I'm saying? So students know what I'm looking for. So okay, I want to make sure I understand this because I just had a moment like, wait, what? So you can add in the SLO as well. That is what you're suggesting. Because I do in my assignments, I'll say this assignment meets SLO number, you know, because I was told that I needed to do that, especially as I'm going through poker as well.
Okay.
So you're also saying that you can even highlight that in your rubric
Yeah,
to align it in your rubric,
yeah.
which
And
makes sense, but I don't know why I'm like right now, like, wait.
uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was you know, they had to find a way to kind of integrate these outcomes into grading, and I think the rubric was just kind of a handy place to do that. So they will see that. They will see that row on the rubric of the assessment. And again, it's up to you if you want those points to apply to it. For everyone else, has anybody else used a rubric in their class?
Yes.
Yeah.
And put the outcomes. Before they were imported, I guess a few years ago, I started adding them manually and then incorporating them where it was like, you know, grammar and composition, and then the other thing is content, and then other, you know, and then I would have the last, there would be like a one thing for 5 points, 0 to 5 at the end. That would be learning outcome number 2 or whatever it was, and it would score, but I would score it within the whatever the total points were. So,
Okay.
So this,
Okay.
but this is knowing that you've done this is really is awesome. It makes it a
Cool.
lot easier and better for accreditation, I think, too, and stuff. So
Yeah, so you're well on your way, so that's good. And everyone here probably knows what a rubric is. Basically, each row is some aspect of the assignment. You know, how is their grammar? How is their organization? How is their, you know, whatever you're grading on. You, before grading even starts, you lay out exactly in detail what is good, what is awesome, and what is not good enough. And the points assigned to each of those aspects. So you can give a description of the criteria, and you can also give descriptions of what good grammar is like, or what poor grammar is like, or what good structure is like. So it's really helpful for students to have that very objective, very clear criteria. You probably already know all of this. So the rubric tool, you know, it takes some effort to put all of that in and lay it all out for any given assignment, but it's a really good payoff in my opinion. So the steps are these. First, you're gonna check your iLearn shell just to make sure that I put the outcomes in there. They should be there, but you'll check real quick. They're there, good. Then you'll start the process for each of the outcomes. You'll take a look at your assignments, and you can do more than one assignment per outcome. You'll take a look at them and think, okay, for this outcome, which of my assignments are a good judge of their mastery of this outcome? So for each outcome, you should have one or more assignments that kind of measure it. And then you'll do the process of adding or editing your rubric for that assignment. You'll add that outcome into the rubric. And I'm about to go through each of these. So you get your rubric set up, and then finally the last step is ongoing throughout the rest of the semester when you're grading. Right there in the speed grader, you'll, as you're grading assignments, you'll also give a score for their mastery of the outcome. If you do more than one assignment for a given outcome, then it'll do some math, which is basically a weighted average. I think a more recent assessment will have a greater weight in the ultimate score of a student's outcome. So it's possible to have decimal places in the final reporting. But if you just add an outcome to multiple assignments, that kind of all happens behind the scenes. You don't worry about that. Hey, Tachel.
Hey, hi, Peter. Sorry I'm late.
That's
Was
quite
stuck in a
all right.
meeting.
You're right on time for the good part. So first thing, like I said, on your course navigation bar, there's one link that says outcomes. Click on it and you should see just your class name. If you click on that, you should see your 3 to 5 outcomes. If not, you email me and get me to fix it, which is not a problem. Also, you can just confirm that those outcomes have these 0 to 3 scores. Meets expectations, exceeds, or a score of 1 is partially meets, a score of 0 is does not meet. So confirm that those are there, and then you're going to move on to the adding an outcome to an assignment. So once you've picked out which assignment, say we start with the first outcome and you pick out which assignment you want to add it to, you'll click on that assignment. If you don't already have a rubric, you'll see this plus rubric button down at the bottom underneath the due dates. You'll click on that, or there will be an edit button for that rubric if you already have one there. So what's on here? Again, there's a lot of little places to edit. It's a little overwhelming at first. The rubric has a name, which doesn't matter all that much. And then it'll have a series of rows. If you've just made a new rubric, it'll have one row that's kind of a default blank criteria. So each row is, what is the criteria and what are my different kind of good, good, bad, small, medium, large. You can decide how many different rankings you'll have, and you can edit the point value for each of those and a description. And then finally, for that criteria, how many points does it contribute to the total point value of the assignment? And each of your little, your pencil icons, your delete, trash can, those all do the expected things. And then for the ratings, you can have as many kind of slots or bands, for poor, okay, excellent. So you can add and delete those to set up as many as you want there. And this would all be for if you wanted to use the rubric for actual grading. If you are just interested in adding the outcome to assess it, you could actually delete this default criteria and go directly to this button here that says find outcome. So at the very minimum, you're going to end up with a rubric with one row that is the outcome. Are we making sense? So you click that find outcome, you'll be presented with, oh, I'm sorry. I'll come back to that. You click find outcome, you'll be presented with that same list of outcomes that you checked. And you'll just pick out which of the course outcomes that you're going to apply to this assignment. The one thing you need to do on this screen and on this screen only is uncheck this. This is the one we were talking about where if the 0 to 3 points for the outcome are not relevant to your grading of that assignment, which is most likely, this is the one chance you get to uncheck that box.
But if it is a part of a larger grade, it won't impact it actually being capturing the data from the assessment and taking it, and it won't affect the ability of it to do that, right? If it's
right.
Like part of it's still going to identify as long as it's you link the specific slope. Okay.
Yeah, the outcome will work regardless, but this is just, do you want to use that 0 to 3 points in the assignment's grade? Remember, we had the rubric open, we clicked on find outcome, and we're going to add an outcome to the rubric. So you'll do import, and let me come back here. And that'll add another row to your rubric here. So again, you can keep on adding rows and flush out a full rubric, or you can delete this, this original default one. The other boxes here that if you are going to use it for doing the grade of their assignment, then you'll want to check that one. The other boxes are not really useful to us. So, and then once you have added the outcome, you know, it creates a row here. You're not gonna edit it any further. You're not gonna change the number of points. You could change the descriptions, but it's not gonna have that much of an effect. So that'll be a 0 to 3 point value. If you unchecked this box, this last cell, it won't appear at all. That won't contribute to the assignment's total. Okay. So, and this is an older version. This is when I had them going from 0 to 5. So you would see this little icon here that tells me that it this row came from an outcome. So it'll be 0 to, 3, 2, 1, 0. And the total points. So again, you may or may not want to have your own rows, and you could see how some of them have, 5.0 points, 5 points, 3.0 points. You can flesh that out as extensively as you want. I said you could assign multiple assignments to the same outcome. You can also do the reverse and say one assignment is a good judge of multiple different outcomes. So you could go ahead and click on find outcome again and add another outcome to one assignment. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. Okay. Tejal?
Yeah, quick question. Can I just have the outcome criterion in the rubric and not have my own? You might have done it, but I was trying to find my assignments at that time, so I might have missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And in that case, you will this checkbox here, you will want to leave it unchecked. If you are going to use your own criteria and do the grading with the rubric, then you will want to use this rubric for assignment.
No, sorry. I meant I don't want to use any. I just want to use the outcome. That's it.
Well, yeah, and you can.
I don't want any of my own criteria at all in there.
Yeah, you will have to make a rubric with only the outcome. So
Okay.
yes, you can do that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, and in that, you'll repeat that for each of the outcomes. And then at that point, you're set up and you can proceed with your semester. And the next time you'll encounter all of this is when you're doing your grading, which it'll happen in the normal speed grader. And if you've done grading with a rubric before, then you already know the process. But if you haven't, what you'll see is when you open the speed grader, you have your typical box for the number of points, but you'll also have a button that says open rubric. You'll want to do that, open it. You'll want to drag this bar over so it's kind of half and half. You can see the assignment over here, and you need to kind of expand this area so you can see the whole rubric. And to do the grading with a rubric, you go click, 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 and add comments on any of the criteria if you want to, and click save. So that effort you put in laying out the criteria for the rubric, it really pays off when you're doing the grading. another question that comes
I,
up.
I had a question really quick. It was unrelated.
Yeah.
So I was wondering for for the rubric, if you know how there on some of the like evaluation of courses, or there's leaving substantial comments and feedback and grading.
Yep.
If you have a very thorough, I mean, if you have a very thorough rubric that has very descriptive criteria, you know, and you're grading on the scale, like do they consider that as like a pretty substantial, as that feedback, like as in the form of comments, or do you actually have to manually eat for for students? I mean, you're still gonna comment here and there on your own, but would they consider the actual description of in the rubric, if it's really detailed, would they consider that enough as far as comments and just theoretically?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no solid answer to it. I would say it's really helpful. It doesn't let you off the hook from having good substantive interaction with your students.
So I can't. So if I get a detailed enough rubric, I can't pay somebody else to just teach the class for me.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Just click on the. I was joking. Thank you though. It's good to know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I think it all helps, but I wouldn't and I think it'll save you a lot of effort, because often we're saying the same things to 30 different submissions. So it'll save you from saying the kinds of things that you would repeat over and over. But I don't think it should be saving you from talking to your students. You'll be able to talk about other things and get more in depth with other aspects.
Lately, it's been talking about ChatGPT.
Okay.
A lot of my assignments at the end of this it's been more and more common, so that's been a fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much the process. At this point, once you do all your grading, there's nothing more for you to do. Then the different scripts between our office and Curricunet, and we'll run it a couple of times after the semester ends. You know, we'll probably run it up to a month or two after the semester is over, just to make sure that we don't miss anyone. And those will just get imported into the big database, and your job will be done once you do all of your grading. Another question that comes up is I'm showing you how to do it with an assignment. If you wanted to do it with a quiz, I think we're still waiting for the introduction of the whole brand new quizzes module, which is still in the oven as far as I can tell. We haven't turned it on here at Gavilan. It's still it's not even feature complete. It doesn't match all the features that we have on the existing quizzes. So we will probably turn it on within a semester or two, and then at some point in time we'll move over completely. But until we do that, we can't attach outcomes to a quiz. You can attach outcomes to a discussion, since you can do the same rubric for a discussion. So all of the same steps will apply. You'll add a given outcome to the rubric for that discussion. Yeah, this is more in depth of while you're actually grading it. If you've done rubrics, this will look familiar. You're just clicking and commenting on kind of the slots that they achieved. Since each of those criteria is worth some maximum amount of points, then the rubric mechanism is doing the addition for you, and it's doing a total point value that they earned on the assignment. So you'll just save that. So zooming back out to the bigger picture. So what we have working at Gavilan is we have a process for actually doing this, and we have a database to store everything in. So that's ready for you to use right now. And The curriculum committee is running as usual. That's good. So what is still a gray area is the reports that the teachers and the departments would be getting every year and the conversations that they would be having around this process. We know that's ideal, but as far as the culture at Gavilan goes, we're not in the habit of doing that. So I would expect to see a push for that within the next couple of semesters. And then the situation with the actual stipends for doing this is very, very unclear. As the best as I can tell is you can get $150 for doing this for one of your classes. That definitely applies to part-time faculty, and the contract is unclear, and it appears that what has been happening in real life is not matching what the contract says. So I can't, I don't have solid answers for you as far as that goes. But despite what the contract says, people are doing this. I can point you towards the forms that you would fill out, and people are getting paid for doing this. So, so I would say go ahead and do it. Any questions or comments about that aspect? Good. We'll muddle along and do our best as usual. Okay, and then that's everything that I have to say about these.